Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to session 2 of day 1 at Loyalty Connect. Bit of a mouthful there. It is really great to have you here for our Loyalty League session. We're going to be digging into what big brands with big loyalty programs are doing well that we can emulate, and we're going to explore some of the mistakes they're making that we should watch out for as well. I'm joined today by 3 very exciting speakers for this session. I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves. So Hannah, let's come to you first. Who are you and what do you do?
Thanks, Fee. Hi, I'm Hannah Spicer. I founded and run a CRM agency called Hannah Spicer Consulting, and we work with premium and luxury fashion and beauty brands to help optimize their CRM activities.
Amazing. And you've got some pretty big brands in your repertoire as well that you've worked with previously.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to work with some wonderful brands, including Scamp and Dude, Desmond and Dempsey. Yeah, lots of brilliant clients.
Fantastic. Iain, over to you next.
Hi, I'm Iain Pringle. Thanks, Fee. I'm Iain Pringle. I'm a loyalty consultant working for New World Loyalty. I work all the way around the world, advising people on how to build, fix, or start loyalty programs. And I also have a loyalty podcast called the Loyalty Podcast, surprise, which has had over 70,000 listeners all around the world. So, and yeah, talking and doing loyalty programs is what I do.
Fantastic. We have something in common there, my favourite topic. And Sophia, finally over to you.
Hi, thanks, Bea. I'm Sophia. I am a senior paid media consultant at Vervaunt. And we are an agency that works on e-com and paid media for premium and luxury fashion brands. So maybe coming to this with a little bit of a different edge, coming from like the paid media angle, but also previously, worked in-house in the CRM space for brands like ASOS. So yeah, really excited to get chatting today.
Very excited to have you here. Very excited to have all of you here. Thank you so much for giving up your time to join us. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on what the Loyalty League are doing well. I actually feel like I should be saying something like Loyalty Superheroes Assemble at this point. We're going to start with a little icebreaker. I would love to hear from each of you, which brand are you personally most loyal to and why is that? What makes you go back and buy from them again and again? Anybody want to kick us off?
I'll go. Yeah, I'll say Sweaty Betty, which is an activewear brand that design products for women. I think 3 main reasons I go back to them. 1 is great product, which is so important and can't be neglected. 2 is they align with my brand values. Sorry, my kind of personal values. Their brand aligns with my personal values in terms of they're very focused on supporting girls and women to be active. And I think number 3 is I trust them and I feel like I have a personal relationship with them. By that, I mean, when a product has broken previously and I've gone into a store and asked for help, they immediately kind of gave me a brand new replacement without asking questions and for receipts and things like that. So I think that trust piece is really important too.
Lovely. Yeah, I have to say, they do not run out, Sweaty Betty leggings. I've had the same 2 pairs for years. They are, they almost need to be less good quality so that I repeat purchase a bit more. But yeah. Fantastic. Thank you, Hannah. Who would like to go next?
I'll go next if you like. I guess the brand I would use is Dishoom. So there's now restaurants, a couple of restaurants in London, and first of all, we love going to my family have been to India and we love the food not more than anything else, and the food's fantastic in there, and the service and everything. But they also have a really funky loyalty program where if you ask for a keyring, they give you a keyring, and if you then on Monday to Thursday, if you at certain times, if you are there, then they bring a tray out and you roll the dice, and if you roll a 6, you get your meal for free. And I really like that because it just cuts through all the stuff in loyalty. It cuts through all the complexity. It's really a 16% discount. I mean, who would cross the road for 16% discount? But actually, it has theatre involved in throwing a dice and cheering and all that other stuff. So it's I really like that for many reasons. Yeah.
In-store gamification, really, and the naan bread ketchup in there is to die for. I completely agree. I am very loyal to that. Sophia, last but not least.
Yeah. So The brand that I'm probably the most loyal to, apart from Tesco, because I do love Tesco, but I'll use a different example, is Monica Vinader. I know, Hannah, I think you've worked with them before, but I'm a massive fan of their jewelry. I'm wearing a couple of their pieces today. In fact, I never take them off. So for me, it is, like Hannah said, that quality sort of piece, they're great quality. And I also know that if I have any issues or if gold plating comes off, I'm able to take it back and they'll sort of repair that for me. So I know that, the customer service is great. They've also just launched their own loyalty program. I think it was maybe a month or two ago, called MV Circle, which I thought was a brilliant name. Obviously, it really encompasses that like community aspect, as well as kind of leaning into, rings are circular, bracelets are circular, etc. So yeah, for me, that's a brand I'm really loyal to. I've actually got a £150 gift card that I still need to use. So yeah, very excited to use that one.
Just waiting for the right piece to come along. Fantastic. Thank you, guys. So it's really nice to hear what makes you loyal to brands and what you think is important as a consumer. But now let's look at the challenge out there. We know that it's a challenging market at the moment. We know that it's hard to prove the ROI of your loyalty program, and yet proving it has never been more critical. So looking to some big brands for inspiration, our question today, our first question is, what can smaller brands learn from the bigger players out there when it comes to loyalty? What are folks getting right that our listeners can look to emulate? Iain, I'm going to pick on you first here.
Well, I mean, first of all, I'd be careful what you're seen as doing right, because each brand has to be particular. Each brand has its own problems, its own opportunities, its own things that it needs to do. So you be very careful about looking to others to inform what you should do. That's the first big thing in loyalty, I'd say. But what the brands do well is what the big brands do well is they have the time and the ability to really measure things and to understand things. So the things that they do well that perhaps our smaller companies could learn from is things like managing their liability. So what I mean by that is every time you give out points, those points go into basically an IOU for your customers, and that grows over time. And that becomes a cost for your business, and it becomes difficult for businesses to manage that liability over time, especially if it's endless. So the big brands do things like manage liability by having times on their vouchers, or they might even have things which say, if you visit this many times, you will get something, but they might not actually tell you what they do. People like Shell do that, where you say, visit the 10th time and we'll give you. Or managing liability, where they say, actually, buy for 3 months and then get a voucher, but that voucher is only valid for 3 months. So these are clever things that they do, where they give high perceived value of a cost. So you might say you get 5% back in this loyalty program, but that's actually a voucher that's only valid for 3 months. And so they manage that liability. And if I don't think you knew, if smaller brands don't necessarily know the theory and the accounting principles behind loyalty, they could fall into these traps quite easily by having an endless liability with no expiry and all the other things. So being nice to your customers is one thing, but being economic about your loyalty program is different. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I guess it's very important then to understand your sales cycle and what a typical purchase frequency might look like, to make sure that you're aligning those expiry periods very nicely with how often someone is likely to purchase from you.
That's right. And also the other thing is don't be shy about expiry. Expiry is a great opportunity to have a very, very responsive emails. So, people say, oh, you shouldn't have, it's easy to be nice to customers. I always say that looks great on paper, but it's not great on economics. Whereas if you get a very expiry proposition that works well for you, you'll actually have a means of having 2 or 3 dips at your customers to make sure they can come back. And in fact, expiry emails work very, very hard, giving people warning that they're about to expire and then expire. So don't shy away from being hard as well as being nice.
I think very good advice. Hannah, you're nodding. Expiry emails, I'm guessing that's something that is in your Klaviyo playbook.
Yeah, and it works the same if you're running any kind of sale or promotion. Typically, the best performing emails that happen are the launch email and the ends soon or ends tonight email. So I totally agree, that kind of sense of increased urgency and the fear of missing out is really powerful.
100%. And I think it's really interesting to see how people use those, particularly after a sales period. Something like Black Friday, you acquire lots of new customers, lots of new members. That's a very prime time to run these time-based promotions, I think.
Yeah, and you can also run your expiry so that it can necessarily end at a quiet period. There's no point ending expiry on December, right? But you could run expiry from February to February if February was a quiet period. You can make all these things work in your favor. It's not necessarily a bad thing to have these things. The other thing is customers totally get it, right? They get that there's this value transaction between being in a loyalty program and not, and they understand that that's a commercial relationship, and so they completely respect the fact that you might have expiry.
I do. I think they are. Yeah, customers are not naive to our tactics and timelines anymore, for sure. Brilliant. Thank you. Great way to kick us off, Iain. Hannah, I'm going to come to you next. Who do you think is doing things well and why? What are they doing well?
Yeah, actually, just thinking about expiry and timing brings me back to Sweaty Betty, actually. So they have an insider, it's called SB Insiders, their loyalty program. And it has lots of perks, like a very generous discount on your birthday, early access to sales, exclusive offers and offers with partners as well. But one of the things I think they've done really well is have a kind of week-long event previously in August, which I would imagine is potentially a slower time for them because leggings are their kind of number one category. So they've run this kind of big insiders week, which helped them kind of drive buzz and sign up to the loyalty program in the first place, and then created this real excitement around all of these exclusive offers and events that were going on. So I think have the benefits obviously to your customers, and I would always hope that those are above just points and rewards, things like early access exclusive offers, but also think about tactically when you want to talk about them and how you can use them to drive what might be quieter periods in your business.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, and it's really interesting the move from discounts and transactional rewards to slightly more experience-based rewards is something that is coming up a lot for us, and we're seeing a lot more brands moving towards it. One of my favorite loyalty programs has also recently completely made that shift. New Balance has gone very much away from points and financial discounts to experience-based rewards, things like member-only access to certain collections, or as you say, early access to sales. I think that is a trend that bigger brands are very much moving towards. And Iain, to pick up on your point, it plays into the value exchange. You're getting a lot more back from a brand through these experiences than just from points and maybe a $10 discount at the end. Sophia, over to you. What are you seeing happening here?
I think it's really interesting the point you've just made there, and kind of moving into the experiential side of things. And I think what loyalty programs obviously have traditionally been those tiered systems where you might be tier 1, 2, 3, depending on how much you spend, which is great. Don't get me wrong. We all love a discount, and particularly as we kind of in the UK and other markets, we're kind of going into a time where people might need that more or might be looking for that value proposition more. But really honing in on that community aspect is such an important part of loyalty, providing people with something that feels like an experience. So like you say, with New Balance, leaning into exclusive access for things. And I know a lot of other brands do that. Lululemon, for example, they are starting to offer like free Peloton classes, offers on other brands that have like a similar lifestyle to the Lululemon user. So you kind of start to create, that person who loves Lululemon, they're able to kind of get that value and that personalization while still creating community. So I think that's brilliant. You've got things like you get discounts on Barry's and Air One in America, obviously. Not that I've ever been there, but it starts to kind of lean into who that Lululemon customer is, and not just giving them, here's some points, you might get a discount. It starts to build up a real sense of community. So yeah, I think that's a really key point.
I completely agree. And if you look at sort of the two absolute flagship beauty programs in the US, Ulta and Sephora, they are both built around community platforms. The consumers actually engage, the loyalty program members engage with each other far more than they engage with the brand. And that's something that the brand is giving back to them through the program. I think it's extremely compelling, harder for a small brand to do, but definitely something to strive and aim for, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm very interested that Hannah and Sophia have both mentioned partners for Sweaty Betty and Lululemon and bringing partners into your loyalty program. I'd love to know, Iain, is this something that you're seeing increasing in prevalence?
Partnerships are an important part of lots of programs, especially if your frequency of interaction isn't that often, then it's a really good opportunity to engage with customers between purchases. And there's all sorts of mechanics you can get involved in that can help drive that. So everything from registering credit card and debit cards to doing promotional activities and shared promotions with other brands, and there's often and you can even do these quite locally, and there's now more and more technology that allows people to do that. So I mean, partnerships has been a cool part of my career all the way through. So no, there's much more ways in which people can partner with other organizations right now.
And I think to come back to, again, Hannah, you said that you buy with Sweaty Betty because they align with a lot of your beliefs and causes. And I think there are so many more brands out there now that really stand for a specific thing or support a specific value, have come to existence because of a certain personal scenario, perhaps. Finding those partnerships is even more exciting now than it's ever been, because you can really pick the brands that align with your brand and your strategy and your values. I think that's actually one of the areas of loyalty I'm finding most interesting, seeing more and more brands really playing into values and causes, and particularly sustainability, which obviously we all know is extremely important in retail. But it's really nice to see brands like H&M, for example, who are really, through their loyalty program, rewarding the more sustainable purchases and driving people towards the sustainably produced products with loyalty point promotions, etc. I think that's quite an interesting dynamic that we're seeing more of from the bigger brands.
Yeah, absolutely. And Levi's, within their Red Tab loyalty program, they offer tailoring and repairs as part of that as well. And their loyalty program sounds incredible. I think they've got 38 million members worldwide, which is mind-boggling. Yeah, and it's top of mind because they've just launched into 12 new European markets. So they're really expanding it. And I think another interesting thing about Levi's is they are really focusing on that being a very omni-channel experience. So as long as you've said, okay, if you go into a store, the people that are working in that store will have access to, your size preferences, your previous purchases, like what you've been browsing on the website, and they can make your store experience feel really personalized and unique, and you feel recognized and special, which I think is really powerful.
Absolutely.
But I think Levi's is a really good example, because I mean, if we go back to your question, Fee, about who's doing it best, I see loyalty as being like a toolbox in a tool shed, in that there's all sorts of different tools for different things, right? You can't compare Levi's loyalty proposition with, say, Tesco's loyalty proposition, because they're there to do different things. And so, if Levi's is there, I see it from the outside looking in as a means of gathering customer data. So they're saying, do you want a 10% discount right now? They want to sign up everyone, and they're prepared to pay 10% to get it. So they clearly put a value on data, and clearly that's what's justified in their business case. Whereas if you take brands like Glossier, the Glossier's generation program, that was there to grow the brand. Absolutely grow it from being nothing to being huge, and now they don't do it anymore because they've clearly got to as big as they wanted to get to doing that. Share of wallet, Tesco Plus is about gathering share of wallet in grocery, because it'd be too rich otherwise. They want you to. So I think you've got to see loyalty programs as specific tools for a specific problem, so that when we go in to see brands, the first thing I ask is, what keeps your MD up at night? What's the thing? Forget the loyalty program. Let's understand what the big challenges are for the company, and let's base and build a loyalty program around that, because you can, So as I say, Glossier is about growth. Admiral Rewards was about return, on getting customers to return. There's a really good one in America by a pizza brand called DiGiorno Pizza, who sell frozen pizzas. And what they do is they get people to send in pictures of terrible delivery pizza experiences, and then they show it on their website, and then they send them a voucher for a frozen pizza experience. And so, all of these different things are different tools to do different things, but they're not just what's great at loyalty, because that's the wrong way of thinking about it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. And I would say your loyalty toolbox could look different at different stages of growth, couldn't it? So, the goal at the beginning could well be to get that customer data so that you can enroll as many people into these amazing emails, expiry emails, etc., that we've already talked about as possible. Once you've got
look at a perfect example of that is Amazon. Amazon created affiliate marketing, and they don't do it anymore. They invented it, and now they don't do it. So, or they do it. They do it with edge cases. They do it at charities, but they really don't do it in the mass market, because they're now big enough. So why would they give away any margin?
And that's, I guess, where brands can start looking at the community side that Sophia's highlighted, and, really starting to go from, I'm trying to get data, I'm trying to give myself another acquisition channel, I'm trying to really build up that member base, to actually, I have a brilliant brand community that can start helping feed into my product direction, and I can really get feedback on what's working and what's not working. And obviously they can turn into their own advertising machine when you have, as we said earlier, a Sephora forum where you don't need a customer support team because other customers are answering the questions on your behalf. So I think you're absolutely right. The role of a loyalty program can absolutely evolve. I guess the important thing is to keep evolving the loyalty program to match what your business needs at the time.
Yeah, and to go on to your point about the good causes, they're very common across loyalty, and you see them more and more in loyalty programs, particularly in brands. But again, the strategy there is a brand strategy, not necessarily a customer strategy. Because just taking some statistics from the recent Mando Connect research, Save Me Money comes out at 59%. People want to save money, and that will always come top. Then a treat for me, 38%. Rewards that should be fun, 13, something new, 11, something that helps others is down at 10. So I'm not saying that it's not important, because it's important to the brand and it's important to the customers, but it's not a key driver as much as the value is in loyalty programs. But then, again, it comes back to the tool of why you're doing it and what's the purpose and the objective.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to balance the financial initiatives with the other slightly softer. I'm a brand marketer. I've been called fluffy my whole life, but the fluffier side of things as well. I think there's a good balance to be struck between the experience-based, the more cause-based things, and actually, as you say, the financially rewarding things that the majority of people are still joining loyalty programs to get. And again, figuring out that balance and how much you can afford to give away, how much time from a marketing perspective you've got to put into those brand initiatives, etc. All part of the fun, I think. Fantastic. So we have looked at what people are doing well and what we should be emulating, but I would be very interested to see what you think brands could be getting wrong, what mistakes you think they could be making. Anybody want to start us off with something they have in mind?
If I don't mind going first, I've often described our role as kind of monetizing Father Christmas, because Father Christmas gives stuff away, but we have to give stuff away and make money from it. And the biggest mistake I see brands making is where they get that balance wrong and they just give away far too much, and without necessarily thinking how they're going to get that money back. And getting that right is really, really important. And that comes down to, often the case of ease and value. So it's saying how much friction am I going to ask the customer to do? What are the things they need to do to get the reward? And that reward has to balance that. And it's when the biggest mistake I see of brands getting that wrong is getting that out of kilter, where they are actually asking the customer to do far too much and not giving them enough, or in some cases just making programs far too easy as well. There's a nice balance of a little bit of friction and giving and rewarding that value, and you've got to really get that perfect. And the brands that do it best do that well. And if you get it wrong, and you make things too difficult, then you're only going to appeal to customers who are already going to buy from you, and that's not what we're in the business to do. You've got to get those occasional buyers and buyers and new buyers to come and buy from you one or two more times. That's where the majority of business cases are. They're not designed. They shouldn't. Well, it's very rare that they should be getting a return on investment from the very top and very loyal and very frequent customers, because they're hard to squeeze the pips harder.
And as we said, you can get additional value in other areas from them. But I completely agree with your area of focus. There was a fantastic example I saw recently where an airline promised free tickets if you had booked X number of flights, and they literally couldn't deliver it. And I think, unfortunately, jobs were lost over it because they had just completely overpromised something that they absolutely couldn't deliver. They made it far too easy to unlock the prize at the end, and it completely came back and bit them. I think you're 100% right. A huge part of your launch process with the loyalty program has to be figuring out where is that friction, how much can I afford to give away with that first purchase that's going to bring people back but not overdo it. I think it's a very good point. Hannah, you look like you were ready to go, ready to jump there.
Yeah, a couple more things for me. I think one is being static within your loyalty program, so kind of defining it, rolling it out, and not being able to move. You've got to kind of continue to look at your customer data, see how they're behaving, listen to them, talk to them, and adapt to what changes are happening in terms of what they want from you and their behaviors and their lifestyles. I think the other piece is only focusing on transactions and not anything else. I think, like we've talked a little bit about gamification already, but looking at interactions like, logging into an app, or leaving a review, or engaging on social media, or I think Gymshark have just launched their loyalty program, and it includes like logging workouts. Like, it's not just focusing on the transactions, because then your customer is still going to feel like you just want sales out of them, and actually it's including more actions, more gamification, and more of those lifestyle points will make them engage. It's about that community and engagement, isn't it, rather than just the points mean prizes approach.
It's a really good point, Hannah, and it's something that, I mean, the first question on this was, what can you learn from big brands? Well, there's no bigger brand in the world probably than Google. And when they came first to the UK, when they were first talking about Google Wallet, they came to the UK and they met the big loyalty programs. And I was working at Avios at the time, or British Airways at the time, and we met them to see what they were going to do with Google Wallet. And because we and the banks were terrified that they were going to own the transaction. They wanted to own the actual, the banking part of the transaction. They couldn't care less about that. All they wanted was utility, because they said to us, if we can get utility and people use this, we'll win this in the end anyway. And it's exactly what you're saying there, Hannah. So things about apps, if you have a reward app, it will fail. But if you have an app that allows people to do other things about the brand, and as you said, track their visits to the gym or other things, and add that utility, that's what customers want, and that will get their use. And you can put rewards on that, but you can't just expect rewards to do all the heavy lifting without the utility as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's about one of the big things that I see people doing wrong a lot is not making the consistent loyalty experience. Like, of course, you've got omnichannel, you've got in-store, you've got your mobile app, you've got your website, you've got potentially Amazon, all sorts of places. But really, your owned properties, people have to be able to use a loyalty program across those properties consistently. Hannah, you referenced people already welcoming you in the store, knowing how many points you've got. You have to be able to earn the same rewards or use the same rewards in store as you can online, on the mobile app as you can online. I think that is something that people get wrong all the time. But when they get it right, it works really well. Sophia, I know you work with Represent, who are doing fantastic in store.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention them because they're a brand that Vervaunt have worked really closely with. And they're doing some great things in the loyalty space. So they've essentially got a sort of black card that when you're in the loyalty program, you have that and you can add it to your Apple Wallet. If I then have purchased on site and then I go into the store, all of that data is then collated and people can kind of understand from store to the website, what I've purchased, what might get me excited. And there's loads of other sort of parts to that as well. There's lots of sample sales, and that kind of allows people to queue jump in. If you've got the loyalty sort of card, it's almost your invitation to, have that better experience in those live events as such. So yeah, they're doing some really, really exciting things.
Yeah, agreed. And they're also picking up really well on that brand values piece as well. You know, they've got their resale portal now, which means that you can also get loyalty points on things that you buy and sell secondhand, which is really interesting way of introducing new people to your brand as well.
Yeah, it leans into that sustainability sort of aspect as well that you mentioned with H&M, and kind of leaning into, you know, lots of different people's reasons for purchasing. You know, some people, particularly, you know, the younger generation, are much more adept at shopping for things that have like a pre-loved aspect. So yeah, it's really great to see.
100%. Oh, guys, I'm afraid that is all we have time for. That half hour absolutely ran away. I could keep going for hours, but I am being told to wrap things up. It was super interesting insight into what bigger brands are doing with their loyalty programs. I don't know about you, my head is whirling with ideas. So please join me in saying a huge thank you to our team of experts here for taking the time to join us today and share their thoughts. I'm sure they would all love to connect on LinkedIn if you have questions you'd like to put to them, and do look up the Loyalty Podcast if you have a moment. It is a fantastic listen. Sadly, we have to say goodbye to Hannah, Sophia and Iain now. But as they leave the stage, I'm excited to hand over to one of our amazing customer success managers, Anusha, who's taken to the stage to talk through the loyalty journeys of not one, but two of our favourite clients. So I will leave you in Anusha's very safe hands and see you again shortly to wrap up day one of Loyalty Connect 2025. Thank you so much, everyone. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.